Old friends, I hope you'll excuse me rerunning just what we've done so far as part of One Planet Oxfordshire. We did a lot of mapping and context analysis. There's an ecological footprint study of Oxfordshire. We've been training all kinds of people. We've trained professional sustainability practitioners, sustainability leads in organisations. We've run an inclusivity programme with Aspire, training community champions in One Planet Living. And we've also been running a training programme for SMEs, helping them to get their action plans ready. We all got together some years ago now and created a vision for Oxfordshire. So that's what we're reporting against today. We've worked with lots and lots of organisations, all different kinds, community groups, businesses, local authorities, schools, creating action plans, individual action plans for those organisations. We did some county-wide action planning, and we did a big scan of everything that's going on in the county that's contributing towards One Planet Living here. So I'm going to, that's where we are. We're going to hear from Cllr Sudbury next. So I will stop sharing and tell you, and I want to welcome Pete and thank him very much for coming. You've got an incredible biography, Pete. Medical director at the NHS, a degree in natural science, 3 years with Hewlett Packard as a health insider, by nature an innovator and a driver of progressive change. You've been a county councillor for us for 18 months, and in the last month you've become Oxfordshire's first ever Green Party cabinet member, with responsibility for climate change and environment. So what a keynote speaker for us. Pete, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. The most nerve-wracking bit of this is trying to find out how to share your screen. Yeah. Oh, good. Isn't it marvellous when the tech works? Right. As everyone will have heard, I've only been in post a short while, and so I haven't really had time to get a full grip on what the County Council's doing. I was offered a presentation I could give, but taking credit for other people's work's never been my style. So I thought I'd do my own and try and frame the challenges we have and how I think we can solve them. The corollary of that is the point of view I express will be entirely my own and should not be taken at this moment to express the position of OCC. So my agenda is to look at where we are now and the need for One Planet Living, a little bit about how people change, and something about actions. Unusually for a Green, I'm going to start with a quote from Margaret Thatcher. In a 1989 speech to the UN, she said, "The danger of global warming is yet unseen, but real enough for us to make changes and sacrifices so that we do not live at the expense of future generations." Fast forward 30 years, and this is one of the future generations. This one picture actually encapsulates pretty much the story of how I come to be here. This is Martha, my youngest child, on Waterloo Bridge in April 2019, heading for the XR protest there. And here's her sister and brother in the same place. After Margaret Thatcher spoke, I spent 30 years being increasingly worried about climate change, studied it hard when I retired from working in 2015. Having children made it much more immediate and powerful, and the XR protests were the catalyst that spurred me to action outside of my own lifestyle. Within 6 months of this picture, by a series of random accidents, I won a by-election in Wallingford for the Green Party and was re-elected in May, and here I am. This is a pretty complicated and grim chart, actually. I hope you can see my cursor. It's a chart of the vital signs of planetary warming. Here's carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and down here is ocean heating, acidification, and deoxygenation. The striking things about all of these lines is that not only going in the wrong direction, where they're actually accelerating. And notice that nothing at all happens after 1990 when Margaret Thatcher spoke. And all these vital signs are well outside any normal ranges. In the last 2 million years, that's 10 times as long as human beings have been around, the highest level of nitrous oxide was down here, CO2 was here, and to get the on this graph, you'd have to go into the middle of the next slide to find the highest normal level of methane. If a patient like this had a chart like this, they'd be in intensive care. And let's be clear about where the responsibility for these emissions lies. This is a slide from Oxfam. It's complicated, but all it does is to link sections of the world population by income with emissions in the 25 years after Margaret Thatcher spoke. We are here with the 10% of the world's population who earn above 25,000 a year, being responsible for half of all the emissions since that time and nearly half of emissions growth. And of course, 1% of them, the ones in black, emitted over twice the total emissions of the poorest 50% of people in the world. So we need to look in the mirror, not out of the window, for the source of the problem. And it's pretty obvious also from this that we, the richest people, need to decarbonise the hardest for the purely practical reason that the bottom 50% emit almost nothing and the middle 40% very little each. To my mind, that says that our current target of 50% cuts in emissions, especially baselined on 2010, is inadequate. The UN's latest pronouncement at the end of last year was that we needed to do 7.8% per annum this decade across the globe. And that would be, I would have thought, a minimum for those of us in rich countries. But climate is only half of the problem. Here are threats to biodiversity, and we can see that food, land and ocean use and infrastructure and the built environment are actually bigger than energy and extraction as threats to biodiversity. And those are about patterns of unsustainable consumption and development. So a couple of quotes to summarize this section. Even with recent pledges, the world is still on course for 3 degrees of warming this century, leading to mass extinction and rendering large parts of the planet uninhabitable. That's not The Guardian, it's the World Economic Forum at Davos. This is the new extinction, and we're halfway through it. We're in terrible, terrible trouble, and the longer we wait to do something about it, the worse it's going to get. That was David Attenborough in April 2019, around the time that Martha, who absolutely loves David Attenborough's films, was on Waterloo Bridge. So we need change, and we need it here in the rich world, and we need it fast. And we need to focus on one planet living because, quite obviously, we don't have any spare planets, but also because the technological solution, decarbonize electricity and electrify everything, will still obliterate the natural world. So we need to create a hierarchy around or underneath one planet living. The first bit of that is donut economics, where you create a basic social foundation for everybody. As you can see, there are lots of reds on there, but without blasting through the ecological ceiling. Decarbonize electricity and electrify everything takes care of this bit, but it does not take care of all of the others. To do that, we need a circular economy. If it can't be reduced, reused, repaired, and so on, it needs to be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production. This is a quote from a chap that I met on the doorstep while I was canvassing. He's worried that his life, that the way he works, is endangering his children's future, his grandchildren's future, but he can't address that. And that's pretty common on the doorstep. If I ask people about climate change, 80% of them will rate themselves as very worried about it. And many are doing something, but know they're not doing enough and are a bit baffled about what to do. That tells us, though, a lot about their willingness to change. When I was a young psychiatrist training in addictions, the stages of change model was very exciting and fairly new. It was developed in smokers, in fact. And it gives us an extraordinary insight into how people change. We start with pre-contemplation. I don't have a problem. Contemplation, got a problem, but I don't know what to do about it. Preparation, first steps, leading on to action where you make the big change. Maintenance, where you maintain your way of being and then go out and get a life. Or alternatively, relapse, after which you can return to any previous stage. When I'm on the doorstep, the people I'm seeing are here. In contemplation and preparation. They're willing to move, but unsure how or baffled by the practical difficulties of doing so. So, how do we address that? Kaiser Permanente is one of the finest healthcare organizations in the world, in fact, and they have two maxims. They say, hire the right attitude and make it easy for people to do the right thing. And here's an example of how you frame that thinking. Here's an example around transport. This has walking at the top and cars in a tiny little bit, private cars in a tiny little bit at the bottom. And I think when we adopt that kind of conceptual framing, we begin to move towards the idea of how you create a one planet world. Our people are ready for that. So we could stop here. We could stop at don't be afraid, because human beings are awesome in a crisis. But we don't need to be afraid to take one big step, because you can't cross a chasm in a couple of small jumps. So what are we going to do? This decade is an absolute crunch time. So we need to set clear targets. 2 planet living by what date? And 1 planet living by what date? And a science-based, that not when do we think we can do it, but when do we need to do it by? We need roadmaps and milestones, clear ones. How do we get there? How do we harness the solutions we know we have already at pace and scale? What are the quick wins, things we can do before 2025 to bend that curve really hard, and by whom? What are the hard slogs that will deliver from 2025 right out into the next decade? Again, by whom and by when? What are the roadblocks, political, economic, social, or technological? And how easy are we making it for people to do the right thing? I finish with a beautiful quote from Martin Luther King about tomorrow is today. We're confronted by the fierce urgency of now. There is such a thing as being too late, and this is no time for apathy or complacency. Thank you very much for your attention. I'd be happy to answer questions later, and my contact details are on the bottom of this slide. Thank you.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you for bringing it to our attention how serious the situation is, but also showing how possible it is to act. Now, I know that a lot of people here are doing amazing work in Oxfordshire, and a lot of people here I feel very proud to live in a county where there is so much amazing work going on. So how well are we doing? So I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Philippa Hoy, who has led the progress review for Oxfordshire. I'm going to ask that if you have questions around this next section, please put them in the chat, and we hope to have time to answer some of those questions. So we'll be answering them in line in the chat, but we'll also have a chat period after Philippa's presentation. I'm also really keen to thank a few people for helping with this report. I really want to thank Rachel Wildman at the county and some of your team for providing essential input on indicators and things that are going on. Liz Hodgson is here today, who worked with us last year to do the complete scan of all the amazing activities that are happening in Oxfordshire. And Liz, you'll see your work in this report. I want to thank Chris Church as well from Friends of the Earth for helping with this report. So Philippa, if you're ready, it's over to you.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here and to be involved in the One Planet Oxfordshire initiative. This is something that I got involved with before I joined Bioregional, and I joined the stakeholder workshops where we actually co-created the vision we want for a One Planet Oxfordshire. So it's been fascinating to be now part of the team and to have been involved in this review to see how far we're getting towards that shared vision for Oxfordshire. So I'm very briefly going to explain how we did the work and the report, and then just very quickly go through headline findings and our key recommendations. We will have time at the end for questions, so please pop any questions you have as we go along into the chat and we'll pick those up at the end. So this is how we organised the report. It's a wide-ranging, holistic review, and we started with these very colourful 10 One Planet Living principles that form the One Planet Living framework. Then we also had 20 key outcomes that were the ones specifically agreed on in that vision for Oxfordshire. For each of the 20 outcomes, we tried to find at least one indicator to give us an idea of progress. We then did desk research to find publicly available data to see how we're getting on against those indicators. So after that assessment, then we have a list of the key regionally significant actions that are helping us to progress towards each of those 20 outcomes. We know there's an awful lot more going on, but we've just had to stick to the really big ones in the report. And then this is the assessment scale we used from just a few areas where it wasn't possible to assess progress to backward steps, then various levels of progression, and then we've also got this category of mixed process. So that was sort of a 2 steps forward and then a bit of a backward step on some areas. Very quick overview. So of the 20 key outcomes we had some or good progress against 10 of them. That mixed backwards forwards progress on 7 of them, and only one area that we saw negative progress. And I'll keep you guessing as to what that is. And there are just 2 areas that we weren't able to assess. But really, the overall picture is that we're doing some amazing, globally significant research and pilot projects. However, this isn't yet having the measurable impact on the county-wide indicators. We've now got all these really ambitious targets, but it's difficult to tell at the moment whether we've got all the necessary measures in place to meet those targets. So just a quick run through the 10 principles. The first is health and happiness. And here we've got 3 specific outcomes for Oxfordshire. On clean air for all, our report shows that although air quality has been improving, we're still across Oxford and the county, there are breaches in UK legal limits. Very good news on the front page of the Oxford Times this morning that last year's air pollution in Oxford saw a massive drop, but that was because of lockdown. So how can we build that into our future? It shows what can be achieved when cars are removed. And the forthcoming zero emission zone, world-breaking initiative there in Oxford, and all the other transport actions that are happening across the county, we should see significant improvement fairly soon. Active, healthy people, we looked at life expectancy, which we find is longer in Oxfordshire than the national average, but then we've got more people diagnosed with depression in Oxfordshire than the national average. So the picture is mixed there. And we still don't know what the full impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic are going to be in terms of anxiety, depression, and long-term health problems. We should probably pick those up in future reviews. The second principle is equity and local economy. And here we've got 3 outcomes. The first on developing thriving local independent enterprises. Oxfordshire was making really good progress economically before the pandemic, but of course, just like the rest of the country, we've been severely affected. However, modelling work predicts that Oxfordshire's economy is in a better place than the rest of the UK for bouncing back strongly. And we do have a COVID-19 economic renewal plan that's being rolled out across the county. The next outcome is seeing empowered citizens affecting planning. The goal here is that we have a responsible local government culture that can influence local development and transport schemes on behalf of citizens. So this was the only area that we saw backward progress. We don't have a quantitative indicator, so we use qualitative evidence from campaigning group called Planning Oxfordshire's Environment and Transport Sustainably, the POETS group, who published a report called The Democratic Deficit, Who Decides Oxfordshire's Future? And here they're warning that citizens and politicians are being sidelined from decisions about our future. And they express strong concerns about unelected bodies having too much influence, and that there's very little public engagement, particularly in big projects such as the Oxfordshire 2050 Growth Board Plan and the Oxford-Cambridge ARC. On the third outcome here, we are a popular place to live, and unfortunately that makes it an expensive place to live and work. But we are seeing strong action here, such as the Oxfordshire Housing and Growth Deal, which will provide £60 million for affordable housing in the county. Looking at culture and community, two outcomes here. The first being that civic society and communities all understand the climate and ecological emergency and are working towards it. And I think, as we saw from Peter's model of behaviour change, things are moving steadily onwards. Awareness is increasing across government, communities and businesses. So, for example, all the local authorities have declared climate emergencies. Oxford has a citizens' assembly on climate change. We've seen the Extinction Rebellion team and Peter's grandchildren out there, and other young people going out on school strikes for climate. That's really raising awareness amongst citizens. We've got a fantastic network of community action groups across the county that are going from strength to strength. And then through our own work in One Planet Living in Oxfordshire, we've seen increasing numbers of organisations developing their own One Planet Living action plans. On this, though, we've been looking at what we've got in the vision, and we have realised that there's a big gap in our sustainability culture in Oxfordshire, and that is the pretty much complete lack of any diversity in it. So we have therefore given ourselves an action that we need to work with stakeholders, for example, those representing ethnic minority backgrounds, to develop a suitable outcome that we add to the current 20, so that we can report against this next year. On land and nature, this we found it's very difficult to get up-to-date data. And without that regular monitoring of biodiversity and the health of our systems, it's very difficult to have a clear picture of progress. There was a fantastically comprehensive report led by Wild Oxfordshire, the State of Nature report, published in 2017, but we're not sure when or if that sort of work is going to be repeated. We should soon have more information in the form of natural capital data sets from the Oxfordshire-Cambridge ARC. There's a pilot project going on there. This is going to be mainly strategic, but it will give us at least some more information about the county's natural assets. And just some of the things that we found, although woodland cover has improved over the last 30 years, Oxfordshire is still well below the national average. Our rivers are much cleaner, and this has helped some species recover, such as otters and voles. However, in general, there's still long-term decline in farmland and woodland biodiversity. There's continued fragmentation across our landscapes, and that negatively affects habitats, which is putting some species at risk of extinction. On water, we have not yet improved our water efficiency in Oxfordshire, but there has been improvement in reducing leakage rates, so important in our water-stressed area. We've seen more movement and therefore graded as good, some progress on flood risk reduction, and there's still more coming in terms of big infrastructure projects such as the Oxford and the Abingdon flood alleviation schemes. On local and sustainable food, we've just got this one very short, sweet outcome, but it's a short outcome, big issue, because food has so many major impacts in terms of carbon emissions, water use, pesticides, fertilizers, plastic packaging, etc., etc. And as for land and nature, we're not currently monitoring the impacts of food in the county. So unfortunately, much of our assessment can only be on anecdotal evidence. We do have good data on food waste recycling, and we're doing really well here because of the use of anaerobic digestion that's diverting food waste from landfill into systems, the anaerobic digestion systems that are producing useful energy in terms of biogas, and also fertilizer from the output, the end elements of the process. So it's really only anecdotal evidence that we think that there is better awareness of the impacts of food, particularly in schools. This is being taught more with growing projects and food waste collection, and also catering and big businesses understanding about the importance of redistributing any surplus food that they're not be able to use but it's perfectly edible. And key to action in this area is our Good Food Oxford network, a network that brings together healthy, sustainable food action that organisations are taking across the county. And just as a very quick example of the sort of thing they do, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Hannah for a quick sort of ad break about an initiative that she instigated together with Good Food Oxford about the action that we can all take as individuals to reduce food impacts. So Hannah, over to you.
Thank you, Philippa. It may be an ad break, but fear ye not, you can get involved with this initiative for free and it will be good for you and the planet. So this is happening next Monday, the 14th. It's called Switch Up Your Lunch. We've been running this initiative for 3 years. And when I say we, I mean Oxfordshire Green Tech, Bioregional helps sort of run that network, and Good Food Oxford. And we are running this sort of veggie vegan lunch with your organisation initiative on Monday. So basically what that means, whatever organization or company that you're involved in, take the pledge. I'll post a link in the chats to our pledging page, which is very simply just the pledge that you will eat a vegetarian and vegan lunch or vegan lunch on Monday. You take a photo of your lunch, post it on social media, tag Switch Up Your Lunch, and we can all take climate action together. And we're very excited to have a range of organisations getting involved in pledging this year, such as South and Vale District Councils, West Oxfordshire District Council, Oxford University and its catering company Compass, as well as several sort of individual Oxford colleges and lots of Oxfordshire Green Tech members. So lots and lots of people getting involved. And as Philip has mentioned, food has so many different impacts, and reducing meat and dairy is a really good way of reducing those impacts. So do get involved, and I will post that link so that you can get involved.
Great, thank you, Hannah. Okay, a few more headlines to run through. So now we're on to travel and transport. And I just love this photo. It's my favourite photo from the One Planet Oxfordshire photo competition that we ran. And this was sent in by the Ship family saying that having a cargo bike transformed their lives. So is everyone acting like the Ship family? Active travel is increasing in Oxfordshire, and we are performing relatively well in terms of active travel, cycling and walking compared to the wider region. However, we've also seen an increase in private car use and a decrease in the uptake of public transport. So that's one of this real mixed progress categorisation here. It's not easy to assess if citizens are aware of the huge impacts of air travel. And of course, there's been very little flying recently, but that's not been by choice. So that's something we need to look at. How can we assess that in the future? But there's much underway to enable sustainable transport options across the county, from cycling infrastructure plans, and we've seen trials of electric scooters, and there's loads more things in the report that I would encourage you to read to cheer yourselves up about these results. Materials and products. So this is all about using materials from sustainable sources and keeping them in productive use, not having to dispose or even recycle them if possible. Peter's mentioned about that we need to have a thriving circular economy. And that's all about designing out waste and pollution, keeping those products in use, and regenerating natural systems. So there has been some progress towards businesses adopting circular business models, and this is from anecdotal evidence, really. For example, here we've got a picture of the Oxford Wood Recycling Centre, which is pulling so much excess wood out of being just disposed of. But even better than that is our closed loop processes, and one company really demonstrating this is Oxwash, a really innovative company that has totally transformed the commercial laundry business from having ultra sustainable washing machines that use hardly any water and chemicals to, and you might have seen them delivering and collecting laundry in their electric blue cargo bikes around Oxford and now other cities in the country. But at the moment, we don't have enough data on product and material consumption to address these performance gaps. Now, we do suspect there's a lot more going on at the moment. And we thought we'd just, while you're all here, sort of in the room, maybe you could pop in the chat any organisation that you know about that is currently doing this. Are there any businesses, for example, that have moved to a leasing, renting model rather than just selling completely or just in part? If you can pop anything in the chat, that would be really useful for us to see. I can't see the chat at the moment, so I can't see that's going on. But yeah, please do tell us about anyone that you know about. So on to the last two principles. First is zero waste, sort of linked to the previous principle. But here, this is one of our areas of strongest progress. We've been making steady progress in reducing total waste generated over many years now, but we've made really good progress on diverting waste away from landfill due to this being incinerated at the Ardley Energy from Waste plant. So that's gone from 19% of waste going to landfill in 2015 to just 5% in 2019. Our recycling rates are among the highest in the UK, but they are beginning to plateau. There's only been a slight increase recently from 57 to 58%, which is still really, really good, but we can do more. And it's great to see that the Oxfordshire Resources and Waste Partnership is being brought back into being, bringing together the city, the district and the county councils to act on resources and recycling. And this is very much the ethos of One Planet Oxfordshire, is that together we can do more faster. And last but by no means least, zero carbon energy. So here we're looking at buildings and energy efficiency and renewable energy production. Three key outcomes here. The first is a carbon neutral target of 2050, aligning with the county council target. Very difficult to establish what organisations are doing in terms of energy efficiency programmes. Some, like the universities, have publicised this and are doing a lot of work in this area, but it's very difficult without a very big survey to see what's going on. In terms of renewables capacity, that had been increasing well, and then we saw a slight decrease in 2019 due to technical issues, but hopefully that will be moving ahead with vigour again. So overall, when you look at carbon emissions for Oxfordshire, it's still unclear, although there has been a drop, it's still unclear if this is going to be sufficient or rapid enough to meet the targets by 2050. All our local authorities have interim or action plans, but these actions aren't quantified to see how much each specific action will achieve carbon reduction. So there's no way at the moment to see if are we doing enough in those plans to be successful in achieving the target. And in order for the city and the districts to reach their targets, it's been forecast that we need around 13% cut in carbon emissions every year, starting right now. And of course, if we don't make that huge level of cut each year, future years the cuts are going to have to be bigger to keep us on track, increasing the mountain that we have to climb. It's really important that we have interim targets to make sure that we're on track for the big targets. But there is lots of great stuff happening. We'll be hearing about some of the big energy projects happening in Oxford in a few minutes. We've got excellent examples of net zero building in developments in Oxfordshire. So, for example, at Elmsbrook in northwest Bicester, where our office is, and we're actually in a passive house standard office, and Springfield Meadows in Southmore. There's a really inspiring little video that Hannah features in on that, which I'll drop into the chat link for that in a moment. So that was a really whistle-stop tour through the headlines of the report, and I spent very little time on all the great actions. So I do encourage you to go and look and see just how much is in place. But now that action needs to be rolled out and really start making an impact on the indicators. Our key recommendations, then, just quickly, we are going to be adding a key outcome for the One Planet Oxfordshire vision into our to achieve this goal of more diversity and sustainability agenda. We do need to see citizens being more empowered in the planning process. Because of the huge impacts of food, we need to see the promotion of plant-based diets and a reduction in meat and dairy consumption. Businesses need to take more action to make their net zero commitments, have science-based targets, and look at things like electrifying their car fleets and moving to circular business models. As I've just discussed, we need interim targets on our greenhouse gas emissions and that big level of annual reductions in emissions. And there are local planning regulations now available to require that new buildings are zero carbon in construction and operation. And we need to be using these now so that we're not locked into having high carbon emitting homes, and therefore an even bigger retrofit mountain to climb. So our next steps, we intend for this review process to be annual, and the County Council are supporting us in that. We're going to be working with the council to develop the review, improve the indicators that we're using, to find more data, to see if more monitoring is needed, and can that be brought forward to give us that better picture of how we're doing. But we really welcome feedback as well from anyone on, is there data available? Are there reports? Are you planning research that could feed into the next review? So very much working together to all of us move faster towards the vision for a One Planet Oxfordshire. Thanks very much for that. We've now got time for questions and answers. If you do have any questions, do pop them in the chat. Hannah and Nicole, I think you're fielding the questions.
We are. Thanks, Philippa. That was fantastic. And I really urge people to, I think the link is going to be shared any minute. It's a report that's fresh off the press. I do urge you to read it. There's amazing data in there, and there are amazing good news stories. And it's a fantastic summary of where we're at. We're going to keep this Q&A section quite short because there's been such amazing quality of commentary in the chat that a lot of people answered each other's questions as we went along. But Hannah, do you want to just bring some of it to light?
Yes, sure. Yeah, so the first question, potentially one for you, Nicole. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was from Ian Nutt, and he said of the health and happiness principle, is looking at life expectancy the correct measure for health and happiness? Could it be decreasing the life expectancy gap based on deprivation indices in line with public health measures for health?
So
I'll take that one.
Oh.
So I've just given the headlines. In the report, we also look at the Community Needs Index, which is some very useful research that has been done for Oxfordshire. And that shows that we're doing reasonably well against the national average, but there are areas of deprivation still within the county. So that is in the report as well. So as I say, have a read through the report for more detail on that. There are more indicators that we've used than everything we're looking at.
Thank you, Philippa. Caroline asks, in rural parts of the county, electric scooters aren't the answer, nor are cycles for many people. What will OCC do to improve public transport between villages and towns and between villages and villages? I have actually seen a link from Rachel Wildman in the chat. Maybe we could ask Rachel, actually, if you'd be happy to say anything yourself further on it.
Hello, yes, yes, very pleased to, and thank you, Hannah. So we are very mindful that Oxfordshire is a very rural county, and as such tends to rely on private use of the car between villages particularly. So this is something we want to address through the local transport connectivity plan, and we are going to be working with a range of stakeholders over the summer to look at emerging policy and strategy, and would invite you to comment on that when we go out to public consultation in the summer. So I've put the link in, and please do message me if you've got any particular queries, but we do hope to engage you through the website. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Rachel. That's great. And then if anyone has any more questions, please do pop them in the chat. Apart from that, we've had a few sort of statements or ideas. So on food, one idea suggested was, how about procurement contracts within council's control for food? Use of frameworks like Food for Life, etc., help ensure local, organic, sustainable foods across thousands of meals per day in local contracts. That's yeah, a great idea. Philippa, I know that you have some experience with food and stuff, and it's probably something that we've considered in our report. And then, sorry.
Have you got a little bit more, Hannah? Go for it.
No, just also a comment from Paul Roberts, and definitely a lot of people responded in kind. Oxfordshire needs to rapidly reduce its unacceptable stark levels of inequality. Tackling inequality and progressing climate action are two sides of the same coin, definitely, and that is something that we will definitely be looking at as we try to increase progress against our One Planet Oxfordshire plan. So yeah, definitely important. Any more comments, please do drop them in the chat. Alternatively, we could, if anyone wants to unmute and briefly ask a question, we have maybe about 1 minute for doing that.
You're too slow, right? We're moving on. We're
Nice.
going to stick to time. Thank you very much for all that excellent quality commentary, everybody. Next, we're going to hear from Chris Church from Friends of the Earth, Oxford. Chris is also a parish councillor for Botley. He spent 6 years on the London Sustainable Development Commission, and Chris has got a PowerPoint to share, I believe. Do you want to set that up, Chris? Chris co-founded Community Energy England in 2012, and of course we know what a hotbed of community energy we have here in Oxfordshire. Chris is also Director of Community Environment Associates. And when you're ready, Chris, it's over to you.
Okay, I hope you can hear and see my slides. I have a very few minutes, so I will be short and to the point. Yes, the question from all this is, what do we need to do now? This is a really huge challenge. It's one that society's never faced before on this scale. And I think the question for us in Oxfordshire, if we're thinking about net zero Oxford, One Planet Oxford, what can we really do locally to have the maximum impact? And in doing that, we've heard a lot today, and I've used it 3 times already, the word we. And actually, we is an awful lot of different people and different organisations. And it's somehow quite easy to say we when we mean other people. It's us as well, each of us as a body. So we need action at 4 levels. One of those is national. We won't do this in Oxfordshire on our own, we all know that. But we really do need to be a little bit better at working together to push for national action. Some people say they don't like to lobby. Some people just want to protest. We need really engaged lobbying. We've got 4 Conservative MPs, all part of the Conservative Environment Network. We need them to be hearing from us, as well as Leila Moran and Annalisa Dodds. We really do need to do more on that to show them what we're doing and what we want to see happen. We need to work locally through all the different initiatives, a lot of which we've just heard about. We've got a huge amount to build on, but we need to do more. And we, yeah, us. It's our cars that will change. It's our gas cookers that will change. Individual behavior change and individual structural change ties in to the technical change. We need to recognize we've got to do this. And above all, well, not above all, but underplaying all this are our local councils. Last month, Friends of the Earth released this report in case of emergency about what our councils are doing, partly because our councils are critical for the two major areas of emissions in Oxfordshire, buildings and transport. All our 6 councils have made a good start since declaring climate emergency 2 years ago. But we really do need to ramp up now. If Oxfordshire is going to play its part in delivering on the Paris Agreement target of sticking to 1.5 degrees temperature rise, we need to be aiming for at least 10% a year. That's not just the council's own operations, that's the whole county. You can see our report there at oxford.uk Climate Survey. So actually, I asked earlier, what do we need to do? We know what we need to do. We need more local clean energy generated. Most of that's going to be solar. On big roofs, on small roofs. I think the Solar Streets initiative being developed in Didcot that enables people to work together to buy cheaper versions. And we need to recognise that some of our lower grade land does need to go for more solar farms. We need to decarbonise transport. I'm not going to dwell on that because, as Rachel has said, the local transport and connectivity plan is coming and it's got to lead on this. This is the only chance we have to develop a route map to zero carbon transport across the county. It'll be a huge challenge. Zero carbon for new homes. Oxfordshire's got more new homes coming per head of population than pretty much anywhere. However many get built, and a lot of people here probably think there's too many, they all need to be zero. We should have a common standard. But it's our existing buildings where most of the energy is used. We're already working on zero carbon for new homes with the Zero Carbon Homes Initiative Partnership. You can see the key members there. Bioregional is one of them. All new homes should be designed to zero carbon standards. It can be done. The survey we did showed that political will and current regulations are the problem, not the technology. And we've got a seminar on June the 17th on that. And I think beyond that, we need to start looking at existing buildings, not just on retrofit, but on fuel poverty as well. So how do we do it? We need ambition. Any councillors today, you've got to be more ambitious as possible. We need the political will, the targets, and above all, the resources to be committed. We need the action. It's great that we've got targets like zero carbon by 2040, but we need action by 2024. We need to start those 10% cuts now. We need collaboration. All our councils are in this together. We're all in it together. We've already got a county-wide partnership between all the councils on waste and recycling. Let's see one on energy, climate, retrofit. And let's make this a long-term commitment. This is not going away. This is for all of us. So let's work together. We've got COP26 coming. We have the Oxfordshire COP26 Alliance. This is putting it on in the papers far more than ever before. And we need people to want to do this. It's not worthy, it's not dull, it's not soul destroying. We want this to be interesting. And what we've just seen in the report shows that people will do it. So we need climate action, we need climate justice, and we need to also recognise what we've done. So, by way of thank you, I'll ask you to do two things. One, in September, we have the Great Big Green Week in Oxfordshire, part of a national Great Big Green Week, 5 weeks before COP26. We've got Good Food Oxford, we've got the CAGS network, we've got Bioregional, all sorts of people already involved. Organise something in your workplace or in your community. And join the Oxfordshire COP26 Climate Alliance. I'm very pleased to announce that I've just had an email this morning, but one of our major local employers, Oxfam, nationally have joined the local alliance and will be encouraging their staff based in Oxford. That's just one example of a lot. We need to push for change. Let's go for it. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Chris. Please do follow up on those actions. We'll send that when the email comes round later, we'll resend those links for you. We're going to move on to some of the amazing stories around the county now. And first of all, we're going to hear from my favourite cafe, which is just down the road from me. Flows are here. Flows have been working with one of the One Planet Living community champions that came through a joint project that we've been doing with Aspire. And I'm really happy to welcome McKenna. Thank you, McKenna, for coming. McKenna is the communities manager at Flows, which was established in 2018. And McKenna, I don't know if you're okay to share your slides there? Or
yeah, sure.
Fantastic.
You see it?
Yes, we have it.
No, I just need to. So I work for Flows, the Place in the Park. We're a community benefit society based in Florence Park in East Oxford, and we were established in 2018 after the decommissioning of this children's centre in Florence Park. Loads of different things happen at Flows, so it's hard to summarise, but some of those include, we have a nature nursery, which is for 2 to 5 year olds, is very much focused on fostering children's connection to nature from an early age. We host the NHS midwives at the centre. We have a cafe. We have a plastic-free refill shop where people are able to come and refill food items and detergents, which is very popular and a good way in which people can help to reduce their plastic consumption and shop locally. We do also lots of other kinds of community activities and initiatives, hosting other groups, as well as being involved in our own programmes to support the development of new social enterprises in the area. And during the COVID year, have been involved in quite a lot of emergency food provision for people who are struggling to access food. So we took part in One Planet Living thanks to a volunteer called Ella, who's I think it's called a community action champion, and she did training with One Planet Living Oxfordshire, and then kind of worked with us to develop a plan for how different parts of our centre could act upon the One Planet Living framework. Yes, this is just some pictures of what life is like at Flows. You can see pictures from the nursery. So that in the nursery, they do lots of growing already. They grow lots of their own food to try and teach children around about food and growing food. This picture in the top left is of the refill shop and one of our volunteers. The refill shop is open at the moment only 4 days a week, and one of our hopes is that we can extend its opening so it's more accessible to people. We partner with other local projects like the City Farm, and this photo at the bottom is from when they came to do a vegetable stall in the autumn last year. We host community events. This picture up here is just a few weeks ago. We did an event for Eid, which was outside because of COVID, but was a lovely way to invite people to the centre and be able to host them. We're a membership organisation, so that's an important element. This picture at the top was from our AGM a few years ago, and members are involved in making decisions about how the centre runs. Our One Planet Action Plan. So the way we work, I won't go into the details of it because it's like all quite detailed, but what we basically did was this lovely volunteer, Ella, she came and ran 2 training sessions with the whole team, introducing the concept and the framework and talking about how we could apply it. And then because our centre is quite complex in so many different areas, we split into 3 areas. So we have the team that's working on the nursery, the team that works on the shop and the cafe, and then the team that kind of works on the building and all of our other community projects, the Everything Else group, which is the group I'm in, community impact. So those 3 working groups all worked alongside Ella to devise this One Planet Action Living Plan, which falls into the categories which were mentioned before in the presentation that Nicole gave: health and happiness, water, land. So in each of these areas we came up with actions. I won't go through them all with you, but some of the headline actions that we committed to taking, and some of which we've already taken, were first of all to recruit sustainability trustees. Like with lots of small community organisations, capacity is a real challenge. So we really wanted the sustainability to be represented at all levels of our organisation. So we've already recruited 2 people who have now joined the board, which is excellent, and both of whom bring lots of expertise in sustainability and environmental management. So they're going to be writing up our plan and taking it forward. We've committed to reforming our recycling system, which seems like such an obvious thing, but is actually very hard to do when there's so many different kinds of people using one place. We're reducing water usage in the toilets through using HIPPO bags. We're almost entirely vegetarian anyway, our cafe, but again, looking at more healthy options and how we can reduce the amount of meat and dairy we're selling in general. And sourcing from local suppliers is another area we need to carry on with. There's been a lot of thought about how we relate to other local initiatives because we're lucky enough to have a building. Lots of people come to us to be hosted, so really linking with other local projects and being able to support them. The low traffic neighbourhoods has just been launched in Cowley, where we're based, so a lot around how do we relate to those kinds of initiatives is important. I really like the One Planet Action Plan because it connects to staff well-being as well, or generally health and happiness and well-being. So we've been doing quite a lot around thinking about that. We pay everyone the national living wage, though not yet the Oxford living wage, which we are aspiring to, but it's a challenge. And so there's lots of smaller actions. We're setting up a pay it forward scheme to enable people to purchase meals for others in our cafe. We're extending the opening times of the refill shop. We're piloting hosting other organisations to do like a farmers market, so there's more local food available. We're already a refill station, so people can fill up water bottles without needing to buy water. We don't sell bottled water anymore. We're running some community meals, which will be all about providing healthy, nutritious vegetarian food to people for free. And what else have we done? Improving our waste management system. We also had an energy audit a while ago, and it's been hard to implement that. So in the longer term, and this is something we hope that the sustainability trustees might be able to help with, who have a longer term vision, to really look into how we can link up with other initiatives to enable flows to have solar panels or other forms of renewable energy. We already have like the most eco-friendly electricity provider you can have, but yeah, we're really interested in the longer term of how we can use renewables more. I was only asked to speak for 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop, but I could also, I can share the plan that we've made if you want more detail.
That would be fantastic. I don't know if there's a link to the plan that you could put in the chat there, McKenna, that would be amazing. What an absolute beacon of action. We talk a lot about the problem and we talk a lot about sort of county level strategy, but here's an organisation that are just really nailing it. So thanks a lot for coming and sharing that with us.
Yeah, I mean, we were really lucky that we were able to work with this with Ella as a One Planet Action champion. I think that was that really helped catalyse. I think lots of these things are part of the mission of our organisation already, but even if that's the case, it can be hard to find the time in the running of normal operations to get on with it. So I think it's definitely helpful in that way that it kind of created a focus by having someone else come on board. So yeah, thank you very much.
And
Thanks,
can I just say that we do have more capacity with our community, One Planet Living community champions. So if there are other organisations that would like help to develop a One Planet action plan, please do get in touch and we'll try and sort that out for you.
Great. Yes, do get in touch. I'm going to welcome Helen Gordon next. Helen is the founder and the creative director of Kite, and Helen's going to share her slides and she's going to tell us about the amazing work that you're doing there.
Might help if I unmute myself.
We've got you, we can hear you. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Hi, yeah, so I'm Helen. I'm talking a bit about our journey really, from not being particularly sustainable as a company to where we're trying to go with the company now. We started it in 2014, myself and my partner, to simplify the journey and experience for clients when undertaking a build project. And I'm gonna sort of talk about how we've pivoted the business during the COVID crisis last year. So it was our own bad experiences with builders that we used when we refurbished a couple of rental properties that gave us the impetus to start our business originally. There's a lack of process, care and any accountability. We disliked their attitude where they'd say things like, it's only a rental. We don't think it should be much better. So we believe that every human deserves the right to live and work in an inspired environment. So we set to create a home experience where the details matter. And as our company grew and we were asked to work for other investors and domestic clients, this became our guiding principle that we apply to any project we work on. So we offered a full design and build service, from creating architectural plans, obtaining planning permission, through to interior design, construction and procurement of furniture. And our clients benefited from a holistic, client-centered approach to their projects. We've worked on over 65 now full refurbishment projects and multiple interior design projects where we've worked with other builders and architects. This just shows you some examples, a couple of slides of some of the work that we did. This was a Victorian, very dilapidated 3-bedroom residential that was converted to a 6-bedroom fully licensed HMO, which was supposed to be a luxury boutique feel. We were chosen because of our high standards and reputation. So this is sort of how it was transformed, and it doubled in value to over £925 per month, helping to improve saleability and maximise the return on investment. This is a domestic property in Oxford that we worked on, a dilapidated 2-bedroom period workers' cottage. It's a very involved full refurbishment, as you can see from the pictures, including underpinning and tanking to the basement and a stability frame. Wasn't any interior design involved on this, but we did full construction. It was, and again, we've doubled the value. We've future-proofed where we can the building, that kind of thing. So before COVID, we were already a purposeful company that cared for the well-being of end users, but the projects we were working on were not concentrating on sustainability. So when COVID struck and lockdown 1 started, I was working on my first sustainable project, designing a restaurant, seeing the impact of the lockdown and how people embrace nature again. So the stories of air pollution clearing, birds being heard again in cities, more wildlife being spotted, it inspired me to learn more about sustainability in the built environment. The more I researched, the more I read, I realised how badly the built environment is contributing to global emissions and to people's health. I realised I had to make a stand and could no longer do things in half measures anymore. So as the pain and hurt the pandemic has brought, one of the positives is that COVID has helped shift the world to a conscious awakening for change. And wanting to help implement this change, we're taking a stand, and we're on a mission to reverse the irresponsible design trends of the past and regenerate for a better future. So how are we doing this? We're now purely concentrating on sustainability and the well-being of people going forward. We've re-evaluated our values, we've rebranded. Rather than concentrating purely on design and build refurbishments, we're now focusing more on interior spaces and the furniture that occupies them. We spend over 90% of our time inside, so it's important we design our spaces and interior products to ensure increased health, stimulate creativity, comfort, wellness, and encourage positive behaviour. I was very excited to hear about the WELL standard that is new to this country from America. We're being guided by it to help us design and build our spaces, and I'm studying to become a well-appointed professional, as it's the first building standard to focus exclusively on the health and wellness of the people in buildings, harnessing buildings and communities as a vehicle to support human well-being. So following both sustainable and well-being philosophy in all ensures the best outcome for our end user and the planet. We've set up a joinery workshop to offer more sustainable options to our clients than we can find on the market. We can make all joinery items for interiors, including kitchens, bedrooms, offices, pieces of furniture, individual items, working not with only wood, but other sustainable materials. We can also project manage the fit out of the space to ensure the smooth running and timely completion. And we've developed 3 guiding principles, which we now apply to every project we undertake. So first of all, renewable. Fresh air, clean water and healthy communities are essential for human existence. All 3 are threatened by the toxic materials we use in the built environment and the waste that's created. So we source responsibly, searching for the most eco-sustainable materials we can find to help minimise environmental impact and enhance the recyclability of materials, increasing energy and material efficiency. We work with recycled, upcycled and natural materials with low formaldehyde content, low VOCs to help reduce pollutants in the atmosphere, and we source locally wherever possible. Our second guiding principle is traceable. We're working towards all of our products that we use or manufacture being fully traceable, so you can understand what you're buying, what's in the product, where it's come from, the conditions it was made under, how it arrived to you and how it will be reused. This will help us calculate the carbon footprint of all our products' components. And it's quite a big task doing this, but I'm determined we're going to get this right. Number 3 is reusable. So new ways of designing and manufacturing our products and materials, we've already heard about the circular economy. We're trying to instigate this, where we're moving from a linear process of manufacture to a circular, so that everything will follow this process throughout its entire life cycle, from raw materials through production to final furniture, and finally repurposing and recycling. Modular, mobile and flexible, it means that the furniture can be updated with new parts, be reused or integrated into new contexts. We place a strong focus on designing long-lasting quality products that will help both the environment and are beneficial to you. We care about waste, and at every stage of production ensure as little wastage as possible is created from our materials. So following our 3 guiding principles, we've designed and built a first prototype, contemporary kitchen. It's very much a working prototype, but it's environmentally and sustainably better for you and the planet. We're keeping toxins low, improving air quality and contributing towards reducing our carbon footprint. It's our first commission with Greencore Construction and Sassy Property, which I think has just been mentioned earlier, where we've delivered an eco kitchen for one of their passive house properties using over 75% sustainable materials. So some of the details. It's a contemporary simple handleless design. Some of the surfaces are made from recycled materials. All are food safe, durable and made from long lasting materials. The carcasses are made from EcoBoard, which is bio-based panels made from agricultural residue such as straw, reed or sugarcane, 100% formaldehyde and VOC free and 100% biodegradable. We're using non-VOC natural vegan paints and oils with no pesticides, herbicides or toxins, using recycled components wherever possible, and all fixings and ironmongery have been carefully sourced to also be fully recyclable. And all kitchen appliances are selected for their quality of build, durability and low energy consumption. And we're working with trying to get a glueless construction method to make sure that it can be repurposed further down the line. And finally, we're bespokely making our local workshop using skilled craftsmen. And we really do have a vision to bring back manufacturing to Oxfordshire, and because then our circular process can really work. So we've evolved during the past 7 years from a company that cared to a purposeful brand that wants to instigate change. We've realised that we as business owners have a responsibility to implement change and reverse the irresponsible design trends of the past before it's too late. We care passionately about how we can bring sustainability to the masses and regenerate for a better future, and we're on a mission to do this. There's so much greenwashing. It's important for true transparency to shine through, and for companies to help create easier ways for consumers to buy more sustainably and know they're making a difference. We don't just talk our values, we live and breathe them, so future generations can live and breathe on our planet too. And I love this quote that Gunter Pauli in The Blue Economy said, "The ethically correct choice is to achieve greater benefit, not by inflicting less damage, but inflicting no damage at all. There is no diagnosis such as a little bit of cancer. One either has cancer or one doesn't." So thank you. That's me.
Fantastic, Helen. It's superb to hear about your journey. It's also really pleasing to hear about the collaboration and the fact that you've been able to provide an amazing kitchen for Springfield Meadows, which is one of the most inspiring housing developments in our county, carbon positive, a One Planet community, and it's lovely when different organisations and different companies are able to get together and help each other achieve what they want to achieve. Our last speaker today is Tom from the Oxford City Council. Really glad you could make it, Tom, and you've got lots of news of amazing stories for us, I think.
Thanks, Nicole. How long have I got, out of interest?
You've got 10 minutes. Is that what you're expecting?
Absolutely fine.
Excellent. Tom is the Sustainability Engagement Officer at the City Council.
Okay, can we see the slides? How are we doing?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so yes, really great to hear everyone speak today. I think there's been some really good things to hear about, and particularly note that I think Chris said from Friends of the Earth that there needs to be a step up in ambition from all the councils, and that's exactly what we're looking at Oxford City. So I'm going to go into some of that now. As has already been mentioned, we had a climate assembly after we declared climate emergency in 2019. We held a climate assembly, a representative group of Oxford citizens to discuss climate change and the different what it would mean for Oxford and what we should do about it. And a clear message from that was that we needed to step up and try and achieve net zero before 2050. So so we need to get there. We need to see that step up in ambition. So how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, we'll look at obviously the council's own emissions and try and get to a net zero council by 2030. So there's a new carbon management plan, which includes installing renewables across our estate, fleet decarbonisation, so fully decarbonised by 2030 and get to 25% electric vehicles by 2023. Purchasing of green electricity, looking into green gas as well, and offsetting as well, and exploring what offsetting could mean for the council and for the city. Retrofitting.
Sorry, Tom, could I just jump in? I don't think we're actually viewing your slides in presentation mode.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, thank you.
No problem. What can you see?
Currently, you're on the Zero Carbon Council by 2030 slide, but it's not sort of full screened.
Okay, let's see if I can do anything about that.
If it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. You can just sort of click through again.
How's that?
Okay, great. That's the first slide there.
Okay. Yep.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay, good. Right, yes. So also retrofitting, I think that's been mentioned. It's a key issue to get the buildings, getting Oxford's buildings to a more sustainable standard, and also some larger decarbonisation projects at key sites, so looking at the leisure centres and so on. So that's what we're going to do at the council level and what we're going to do in our own estates and operations. But what are we going to do about the rest of the city? We think that the council's emissions account for about 1% of the city as a whole. So there's a whole lot more that needs to be done beyond our own estate. So this graph here, you can see the orange and red sections. That is the emissions in Oxford that come from buildings. So almost 80% of our emissions come from buildings. That's residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, and so on. And then that big blue section is transport. So between those two factors, we're accounting for almost all of the city's emissions. So those are going to be the key areas of focus. So as the city council, we think we can address our own emissions, 1%, and then we can influence about 66% of the rest of those emissions through various levers. But then how do we address the rest? So what we did earlier this year was hold a Zero Carbon Oxford Summit. And so that brought together some of the biggest and most influential organisations in the city to get them to agree on working together to get that city to net zero. So the first thing they did was agree on a target date of 2040, and we had a lot of scientific input from that. So we worked with Nick Eyre, who's the City Council's scientific advisor and works for the Environmental Change Institute, to set this target for 2040 for the city, which is a big step up in ambition from the legal 2050 limit. But the crucial thing about this summit was the launch of the Zero Carbon Oxford Partnership, which is those organisations coming together and agreeing to collaborate. So in times previously, they would have worked to reduce their own emissions and shared information and supported each other. But now the key step up is about, yes, reducing our own emissions, but also working together to go further than that, to see how we can extend into the future. How can we go beyond what we're already doing and enable things to happen that wouldn't happen if it was only us working individually? So it's about that collaborative action. And in the last few months since the launch, we've been working on a roadmap and action plan for that. So how can we get to what's the route to net zero by 2040? What are the key milestones? And crucially, what are the actions that we need to take right now and in the next 2 years, the next 4 years, to get some of this happening? Because as someone mentioned earlier, it's what we do now that's really crucial. We need to take action now in order to get the ball rolling and get us closer to that net zero date. So some of the things that are happening. Zero emission zone, I think, has already been mentioned, but that's something that's happening with the county and the city, introducing a zero emission zone in the centre. So there's a pilot coming in August on these streets that you can see in red, but then will also be the intention is for then that to be expanded to a much wider area of the city centre. And the zero emission zone should be the first of its kind in the world, we think, and it will be only accessible at certain times for vehicles that can run on zero emissions. So that's a big increase in cycling and walking, and also encouraging EV vehicles as well. So another thing that's happening is Energy Super Hub Oxford. So this is an artist's impression of what it will look like that is going to be installed at the south of the city, and it'll store energy, help us balance the grid. So obviously there's going to be a lot of electrification in the next few years and decades, and we need to make sure that the energy grid in the city can support all that electrification. So this battery is going to help do that, and it's going to also charge. It's also going to power what will be Europe's largest rapid EV charging sites at one of the park and rides. So really facilitating that change to EV, and also thinking about hybrid transport systems. So having it at the park and ride means people could drive their electric vehicle to the park and ride and then get a bus into the city, hopefully one day soon an electric bus into the city, and think about those different transport models we can do. And this Energy Super Hub is one of the things that's going to enable that. And another thing is Go Ultra Low Oxford. So this is a project or a series of projects looking at different solutions to electric vehicles in the city. So one of the issues is people have not everyone in the city has off-street parking, so it's much harder to charge your electric vehicle if you have to park on the street. there's all kinds of complications of running an electric cable across the street or putting in different infrastructure. So this project is looking at different things we can do to different solutions to that, and also looking at electrification of the city's taxis as well, and encouraging more people to do ride sharing and that sort of thing. And then Project Leo, Local Energy Oxfordshire. This is a joint project with several different partners, including the county council. So this is about creating a smart energy system in the city. Lots of different research, lots of different demonstrator projects and ideas going into thinking about how can we make Oxford's energy system not only smarter to deal with all the changes that are going to need to happen, but also fairer, and ensuring that some of those inequalities that are exacerbated by climate change, and some of those inequalities that are exacerbated by fuel poverty, for example, are addressed, and how can we make those social improvements while also making the environmental improvements. Thanks. So that was a whistle stop tour. There's lots of things I didn't mention that we're doing, but hopefully that's a good overview. Thanks.
Wow, you've got some of the most impressive energy infrastructure country projects that I know of, and they're all happening here in our county. Amazing stuff, Tom. Thank you very much. Do catch up on the chat if you're missing any of it. There's great stuff going on there. It only remains, thank you to all the speakers. Not only have you been amazing and inspiring and provided such a cross-section of activity and good news and challenges from across our county, you've also stuck to time. So I'm able to wrap up with comfort and just talk about ways to carry on working together, things that can happen next. So I'll just share that. Hannah, do you mind sharing that last slide for me? If you've got a moment there. Thanks so much. So One Planet Oxfordshire will carry on. We will do this review process once a year. You can now see the full report of the annual review for Oxfordshire, and there's a link coming your way any moment. So do read it, if only as a way of hearing so much good news as well as the challenges. So do read the annual review. We will be doing the same process again this time next year. So if you spot areas where you can help us to do an even better job next year, if you've got access to data that would help us to assess things, then please do let us know and stay in touch with us. We really appreciate that. There will be quarterly newsletters, there'll be other events, so please do sign up for our mailing list or stay on our mailing list, and thank you for staying with us for all these years as well. If you have an action plan and are busy delivering that, then may the wind be behind you and keep going, and if you want to talk to us about it, do get in touch. And if you've come along today and think you'd like to do a One Planet action plan, do get in touch. There's all kinds of free resources that are tailored to different groups, no matter what kind of organisation you are. We can help with that, and the community champions can help you too. A really direct thing you can do this very Monday is pledge to switch up your lunch. So cut down on that meat and dairy on Monday for your lunchtime and sign up for that. That's Monday lunchtime. This is an international programme, and we have just as we have all these amazing stories here in Oxfordshire, every one of our One Planet Living towns and cities is doing equally amazing stuff. So on the 24th of June at 5 p.m, we will be hearing from all of the One Planet Living towns and cities. There will be speakers from every country. Do join us on that. We have a pre-recorded video from Saanich, which we'll share with the email that follows this event. If you are interested in doing training on One Planet Living, there's training every 2 months online. It's 6 hours in total, and there will be a link in the chat in a moment of where you can find that training. A number of people here have done the training, and hopefully you can just do a thumbs up because I believe you enjoyed it. If you are a sustainability practitioner and you would like to join our associates network, there you can join a community of people working just like you and making One Planet Living happen in your own context. So you can find that on our website as well, and I think a link for that will come too. So I want to thank the speakers again. Thank you so much for your inspiring and beautifully crafted presentations. Thank you, Philippa, for doing an amazing piece of work on the annual review, and everyone who worked with you on that. Can I ask everyone to unmute and say thank you to all of you for coming, and I hope to see you for real very soon.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks a lot.
Fabulous work. Brilliant presentations. Thank you.
Really, really good stuff.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you. It's great to see everybody connecting as well, and other initiatives going on. That's really brilliant to see.
Yeah, excellent session. Thanks very much.
Did you say you'd share the links that are in the chat?
Yes, exactly. And we'll share the chat itself as well, so you can see all the nice sort of dialogue. But we will also be sharing links in the chat. Yeah.
But if you like the links in the chat, read the report. There's so much more in there as well.
Okay, see you all.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris. You're brilliant.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak as well. It was really interesting to hear about what you're doing too. So I feel very inspired.
Great.
Well, thanks so much for being part of it,
Fantastic.
Helen. It was great.
Yeah, so
Yes,
anything more I can do, you know, let me know to be involved, because yeah, absolutely. It's great.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at more sustainable construction events. It's good to talk about, you know, the whole inside outside idea. I think that would be great.
Yeah, no, the inside definitely is a bit that's missing. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to, that's what my thing is.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll definitely look for those opportunities.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Helen.
Bye. Bye.
See you.